Baby, can you shake me and wake me from this bad dream? Conor went down, 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 down. And I just can't believe what I just saw. And I was like, Maxie, 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 no. Like, Conor, what the happened? No. What the... After weeks, after months, after days of anticipating the return of Conor McGregor, the very first strike that Conor throws, he injures his knee. Am I hallucinating? Like, dog, you just can't, you can't make this shit up. Like, it literally feels like we're dancing in lollipop land. We're walking through lollipop land, man. Like, this feels like a fairy tale. It feels like I'm dreaming. It feels like I'm not even really recording right now. 5 years away, coming off of a catastrophic leg injury, and this dude comes back, and the first strike he throws is basically a flying switch kick, a flying kick, and lands what looks to be a little bit awkwardly on that right leg and injures the knee. You got to be kidding me. We got a lot to discuss because that is the most deflating moment that I have seen since I have been on this earth when it comes to sports. By far, nothing even close that I can remember. At least when it comes to the UFC. I know maybe you could say recency bias. At least when it comes to the UFC. At least when it comes to the fight game. Just absolute Looney Tune, cartoonish like stuff, man. Absolutely insane. But the crazy thing is, I mean, obviously we didn't get a main event. We're going to talk a lot about the McGregor-Holloway situation, the lead up to the fight week, everything that I was kind of realizing and noticing, and kind of, Conor's energy, fight night, his walkout, just some things that I was noticing, right? People are like, well, maybe he was injured before the fight. We're going to break it all down. I'm going to give my thoughts. But really, I don't want it to take away from the fact that outside of the main event, which obviously that's what everyone was looking forward to, the return of Conor McGregor versus Max Holloway at 170 pounds, I get it. This card was outstanding outside of the main event. Outstanding outside of the main event, man. So I want to be positive in a way because I really enjoyed this card. I really, really did. We had so many great performances. And by the way, we cooked on this card. We went, I believe it was 12-2 on picks. So we did very, very well. I really enjoyed this card. The main event, absolutely deflating, man. Deflating. So let's just rock and roll right into it. All right, I don't know what to say. I was wide awake last night, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to hop on there and record, and I'm all amped up. I'm like, is Max going to go out there and put the beats on McGregor? And it's like, Conor's done. It's Conor going to go out there and shock the world and knock out Max. And I was thinking of all these different scenarios, and I was so amped up. I'm like, dog, I can't wait to record my recap. And then this happened, and I'm like, it was like a balloon that's all filled up, and you just stick a pin in it, and it goes, tzzz. That was my energy last night. Because I couldn't believe this shit, man. I literally could not believe this. After all we've been through, after all of the buildup, Max, you're not going to lay a glove on me. I'm going to come out of this bout unscathed. I'm going to box you with me hands down. You're not going to lay a glove on me, and even if you do, I'm going to laugh in your face. All of it, my Wonderwall, all of that for the main event to go down like this after the card was spectacular. This was one of the best cards I feel like we've had in a while. We've had some great cards. We've had some great events. This card was insane, man. And then for this to happen. And I know they're showing the locker room shots, right? McGregor back there. They showed one on the broadcast where, Owen Rohde, his striking coach, pad coach, is moving forward like he's imitating Max, and you see Conor just sliding out of the way, pawing with that lead hand. He looked good, like back in the back, and I'm like, oh, maybe we are going to get a solid Conor McGregor that's going to come out here and possibly give himself a chance to get the job done. Is he going to look washed? There were all of these questions coming into this. And then he comes out there. He does the walk, right? Shows up to the arena with the mohawk, the what he did earlier in his UFC career, the Chuck Liddell look, right? And I'm like, oh, what's going on here? Channeling Chuck Liddell energy, like, what's going on here? Right? And then Conor comes out, and it's funny looking with the hair, because it's like, we saw it, on social media, it's like, oh, he shaved his head, and then you see him, it's like, this dude's funny looking, man. He looked funny. And then as he's making the walk, he's kind of got this serious look, and then he's like, and then he makes the walk, and it just looked like, I don't know, man. When all week I was saying that, like, Conor kind of looked like Conor, like, ate Conor, and like, it just didn't really look like the same person to me. He looked old, tired, stressed, and withered to me, man. That's how he looked. The minute they put his face on camera when he was starting his walk, that is the first thing that came to my head is, man, he looks stressed and old and withered. And then he goes out there, right, and it looks like he's moving ginger on that leg as he's coming up for the referees to do the check-in, to do the Vaseline and the whole nine, and people are analyzing that moment, and in the back, him throwing kicks, and he's looking down at his foot or whatever. I don't know, man. That's why I'm like, what in the world? Was he injured coming in? Did he just get injured in the moment, or was he banged up and then he threw this flying kick and then all of a sudden he made it worse, or did he just injure it in the moment? I don't know, man. But you like, deflating. Absolutely deflating. All of this build-up, the rematch, Max coming up to 170, Conor coming back. He's been away all this time. And my first thought after the whole thing goes down is, what in the world just happened? Am I dreaming? Is it late at night and I'm just like asleep, half asleep? I'm sleepwalking through the house. Like, what is going on here? But when you've been away for 5 years, why is the first thing that you do a flying technique at the start of the fight? Like when he came into the Poirier trilogy. Oh, my leg was banged up. So you're just going to throw a bunch of leg kicks with the leg that's damaged? Man, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I said, I just don't, the words, I don't, this was so deflating. I was so looking forward to this. And I know that there's a lot of people out there, they're like happy about this. They're excited. They think it's funny, all this stuff. And I'm just sitting back going, man, like the biggest star that we've had in MMA makes a return, doesn't have to do this, comes back. It's a rematch against Holloway in a fight where it's like there's some factors that kind of side with McGregor. It being at 170, there's all these questions. We have no idea what he's going to look like. We've seen hardly zero training footage. Max coming up to 170. Like, what's going to happen here? Right? I picked Holloway to win the fight, but not like this. No one, did anyone see this coming? No one could have seen this coming. Throws the flying technique, lands, kind of goes down, and you're like, oh, something looks like it happened there. The way he landed, all that weight on that leg, right, the knee. Then he's kind of getting back up and moving forward, and you could tell something's off, right? And then goes to throw a left hand and then kind of falls forward and stumbles, and he's like pulling guard, and then Holloway's talking to the ref, like, what's going on here? And McGregor's like saying fight or whatever, and then Holloway's kind of following up a little bit, and then they get back to the feet. McGregor, the leg kind of goes again, and Mike Beltran steps in and stops the fight. Like, are you kidding me, man? And what was going to be possibly, like, imagine if McGregor would have went out there and pulled this off. Like, imagine if, and like I said, I wasn't counting him out. I mean, obviously he was up against it for sure. We all know that. Being away, we know how this game works. You can't be one foot in and 1 foot out. The lifestyle that he was living, it felt like maybe he turned a little bit of a new page, was kind of figuring himself out, getting back on track. And I feel like that's a big reason that McGregor was back to compete. It gives him something to work towards, keeps him, locked into something, right? But then you start thinking about, well, do we see any footage from the training camp? Because was it he was actually trying to bring in this element of mystery? Was he banged up? I don't know. The biggest gate, I believe, in UFC history, right? All of this stuff, the fight week, the social media numbers, like people were pumped about this. And then to go out there and then it goes down like this, like This was literally, like, Max Holloway to me might be the biggest winner from UFC 329. This dude went in there and made all kinds of money, I'm sure, to go in there and take absolutely zero damage. And on paper now has his get back against McGregor. Like, Max Holloway just made a bag and took zero damage. And he didn't really take any damage in the Charles fight either. So Holloway's fresh as a daisy. They literally could have had Paddy Pimblett come out, make another walk, and fight Max Holloway in the main event, because Paddy took zero damage and Max Holloway took no damage. This was just so deflating, man. So deflating. And it just kind of, it's like, people are like talking about a trilogy. I'm like, dude, I don't even know if we ever see Conor fight again in the UFC. Like, he had 2 fights on his deal left coming into this. This obviously is one of them. So now he has 1 left. We heard, that the UFC was trying to give him Carlos Prates. And then you're sitting there going, well, the UFC, were they trying to bury him by giving him Prates? It's like, wait a minute, you've been away all this time. We're going to try to give you to this absolute berserker of a striker that's got devastating power, who's a true welterweight. Like, what are you doing? Are you trying to get McGregor KO'd? And then now we get the Holloway fight, and it's like, well, if McGregor doesn't catch him early, he's probably going to get tired, and Holloway's just going to put the beats on him and melt him and break him down and win. And we didn't get to see anything. McGregor basically took no damage outside of, obviously, to the knee. But he goes in there. That's 1 fight down in the UFC. He's got 1 fight left. I literally, this is so nuts. And do I think it's the end of, like, his fighting career? No, I don't think so. Because he's got 1 fight left on his deal. We'll have to see how it all plays out. I don't imagine that the UFC will just let him walk, right? Because he's still Conor at the end of the day. He's going to, bring in the eyeballs, the attention. But I've been saying for a while, like, I don't think things are particularly great between Conor, Dana, and the UFC. Like, if you could tell throughout fight week, there were like these tells, these signs. It just seems like there's a lot of bitterness going on, right? You heard Conor on Ariel Helwani, the contract being paid his worth, all these different things to where it just seems like they're very much just not on the same page with much. And Conor, obviously, an owner of BKFC, he wants to compete in his own promotion. He's been very vocal about that. He wants to maybe go fight in Netflix, box Jake Paul, whatever the case may be, to make a boatload of money, to do other kinds of Looney Tunes style of fights. But, man, I really thought we were in for something entertaining here, because we all know that whether you thought Conor had a chance or not, you knew early in the fight that he would at least be dangerous. Now, I didn't think his gas tank would hold up whatsoever. We just had really no clue what to expect. And there was always the possibility that McGregor could show up and be a complete shell of himself, be completely washed, and then this is just all a waste of time and just a big clown show. And this ends up being a giant clown show. And like, I feel for McGregor in a way, man, because it's like, imagine being away from the game for so long, coming off, battling, recovering from the injury and all the different things that have been going on. And then you come back and you finally make the comeback. And then this happens. This isn't even a fight. And this happens, and you injure the knee. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. But I could tell by the walkout. I could tell by McGregor being in the octagon, right? He did the little Billy strut. He was doing the walk and gets in there. And he looked weird to me, man. He just looked weird to me. He looked old. He looked withered. He looked stressed. That's the biggest thing that I've been saying about Conor McGregor these days. When you look at this picture, even right here, this looks like an old, stressed out person that's been through some stuff. That's what it looks like to me. Just stressed, anxiety. And it almost looked like to me when he made the walk and got out there, like it was like he was back in the moment, the aura, the fans, the arena, the bright lights, the walkout, the walk into the octagon, the whole 9. And then he got in there and it was almost like, oh, now it's fight time. And it was like almost like, oh, I haven't done this. And I don't know, man. He just didn't seem very amped up in there. And I felt like, and I mentioned this coming into fight week, throughout the week, I was saying, look, it almost feels like he's trying to amp himself up because he's been away for a while. I mentioned that in the trilogy with Poirier. It felt like McGregor was watching old footage of himself from press conferences, from his fighting style, to try to get back to what he was back in the day. And the reality is, we're never going to see like 2016 McGregor against Eddie Alvarez. Like that we knew was not going to happen. But could we still see a solid version of him at this point? Sure. But now, depending on what this injury is, how long is he going to be out for? Is he going to come back and complete a trilogy with Holloway? Like, I don't know, man. Is he going to fight Chandler? Like, I don't think so. I just feel like I've had this feeling for a while, like there's just going to be this bad breakup between Conor and the UFC. And I know you could say, well, they're selling out arenas and Conor's the biggest star and all this stuff. And I get that. But to then go out there and suffer the injury in the Poirier fight, and now you come back, you're talking about the biggest comeback, and you're I don't want to say like selling wolf tickets because, I don't think the guy planned on getting injured out there like that. Like, he goes out there, throws a kick, shit happens. It's the fight game. You're older, you're coming back, you haven't fought in a while, and you're going to throw a wild, like, technique, and it's like, I just don't understand, man. I don't understand the point of throwing that technique. Like, it's all risk, and I know people are slowing it down. The foot got close to Max's head, but even if it lands, is it going to KO him? No, I don't think so. So it's like all of that flashiness for what? And we know how Conor starts fights. He comes out, throws a big fancy technique, and then it's just kind of like he's on the gas, and then he can find a shot, and then if not, and then he kind of becomes the nail, and then that's where things become a problem. This is just so deflating, man. So deflating. We have no read on anything whatsoever of how Holloway was going to look at 170. I was very intrigued by that. What's Max going to look like at welterweight? Him fighting in this weight class for the first time. Conor being away, being older. How's he going to look? In the back, it looked like he was going to look at least half decent. And then to come out and throw the jumping technique, man, and then for this to go down like that is just absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. So do I think it's, the end of his fighting career? It might be. It might be. I don't know, man. Conor's an unpredictable individual. He's all over the place. He's unpredictable. I don't know. I feel like in the UFC, at least him fighting at a high level, like, dude, when you suffer so many injuries and then to come back like this and fight at a high level against a guy like Max, that was going to be a steep hill to climb. But now to suffer another injury, and Conor's, like, I believe injured one or both of his knees, whatever, multiple times throughout his career. He's had so many injuries over the years. And then to now have another one after the layoff and come back and then you get injured, like, that's crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. And I know Sean Strickland, I think, was talking about this online, and I literally was saying this last night as I was watching it. I was literally like, whenever someone's on, like, the sauce and then they come off, how's your body going to hold up? Because you're used to being on all that stuff. You're feeling good. You're feeling whatever. And then you just come off and you're going to come back and try to be a high-level athlete. Like, it just feels like something's going to give at some point. I didn't think it would go down like this, though, man. I expected, it kind of like what Dana was saying, at least a one-round war. Some craziness in the first round. The theory of the fight was literally the good old Conor early or Max mid to late. That was literally the breakdown of this fight that basically everyone was probably giving, and that was literally the breakdown. Conor could come out aggressive, land a big shot, and if he doesn't, he's just going to get cooked. He's going to get cooked by Holloway. A guy that's durable, has shown a little bit of a crack in the armor there, but he's got punches and bunches, volume, output, and we have all of that for zero answers now. Zero answers. Other than the fact that Conor McGregor is a high-level fighter, that's done. So if anyone even thought that, like, he could still compete at a high level in the UFC, those questions, that's done. That ship has sailed. And now, coming off, now you're going to have another injury and you're going to have to go back to the drawing board. Like, people don't understand, man. Like, if you get injured, like in sports, it's like, oh, well, in a year I'll be back. It's like, man, the battle is getting back to being healthy to be able to then, rehab that injury, that leg, the foot, whatever, and then get back and then try to get yourself back to where you are. And a guy in Conor who was, to me, clearly having some issues with substances, with drinking, whatever, and it's like now after all of this, you make this big push to come back and then this happens? We're going to have to keep an eye on this dude, man. People are going to have to keep an eye on this dude. So I know that there's people out there talking about kind of like the conspiracy stuff of, McGregor going out there and kind of like, planning this or whatever. I'm like, man, I don't know about all that, dog. Like, after being away for 5 years, you think he wants to, like, come back here and fight Holloway? Like, to me, this was McGregor betting on himself. Like, he didn't have to come back and do this. This was him betting on himself. He's like, I got 2 fights left on my deal. The UFC didn't, as far as, from what we were hearing, they didn't want to re-sign him. So it felt like the UFC's trying to squeeze the cash cow for a little more cash before the ride is over. And McGregor's like, look, I could show these guys I still got it. And imagine if he would have went out there and beat Holloway. He would have been on top of the world again in MMA, man. He would have been on top of the world. Imagine if he won this fight. All the possibilities, right? With only 1 fight left on his deal. I don't know if they let him fight Gaethje or Islam for a belt, but who knows what happens. But now we're never going to know. And what I do feel is the reality is him in the UFC, like, I don't think the UFC will let him go, right? Because he's got one fight left on his deal. And I believe the way it works is they have to offer you like 3 fights a year or something like that. I don't remember the specific thing, but what are they going to do? Are they going to give him a layup? I don't think so. They're probably going to try to bury him on the way out because they're like, well, the ride's over. And the way that this went down, the big gate, the expensive tickets, and then the show up and then this happens, like, man, this is nuts. Absolutely nuts. We have zero answers. We didn't even get to see really what Conor was going to look like because he threw the jumping kick, injured his knee, and then couldn't really move and tried to throw a left hand, fell over. Max is landing some ground and pound, talking to the ref. Mike Beltran stops it. Good sportsmanship from Max Holloway as always, which is why I was happy Max got this fight, got the big payday, the big moment, because Holloway's deserving of it, man. I've always been a long-time Holloway fan. He's one of the guys that got me into the sport, as is Conor. And I wanted to see a proper fight. I wanted to see a legit back-and-forth rematch between these two, and we got no answers. Absolutely no answers. But what I will say is Conor's energy was weird. It was really weird, man. And Max was saying it, too, in his post-fight. He was like, his demeanor, he was like kind of calm. And normally Conor comes out and he's like, got a fire to him. He's moving around. He's stretching. He's throwing these kicks. He's shadow boxing. He did almost none of that. I know he did a little bit of shadow boxing, I think, as Bruce was introducing him or around that time. But I don't know, man. Those are literally the first thoughts that I basically had when I saw him walk out of the tunnel. Old, withered, and stressed. And then all throughout fight week, it kind of felt like to me it was a guy that was there, but also a guy that was trying to almost pump himself up to get him kind of back into the frame of, man, when you're away for a long time, like Eddie Alvarez was talking about it all week, and it's something I've always said. You can't be 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Guys talk about this all the time in the fight game. But if there was ever a guy that's wired in the way to be able to overcome that kind of stuff, it would be someone like Conor. But to come back and have this happen, he was trying to throw some other kicks, and the leg was just going, man, this was just a disaster. Just a disaster. And then Holloway goes through a whole camp, bulks up to 170, and it's all for a big payday, obviously, but we don't even get to find anything out. We found out nothing about this at all. But another injury for McGregor. He's going to be out for a while again, I'm sure. Him fighting at the highest level, it's done. I think, if he does fight again, which who even knows at this point? I don't even know, man. Because at this point, it's like you have everything. What's the point? You got the money, you got the fame, you got all this stuff. And it's like, it's a damaging blow to the brand, though. It is. It absolutely is. So he says, I'll return. Reddy's been tweeting. It says, I'll return. We'll see. If he comes back, do they run the trilogy? I don't know, man. I don't even know what you do at this point. Give him the Chandler fight. They're not probably going to. The trilogy with Holloway, they're one apiece, maybe. I just feel like we know how the UFC is. If you're not going to get a long-term deal, we saw what they tried to do to Nate. They tried to give him Hamzat, and then Hamzat missed weight, so it ended up working out for Nate. But a lot of these big names on the last fight of your deal, they're not so nice. The UFC doesn't usually play so nice. McGregor, man, hope the dude heals up. This was a deflating and one of the most anticlimactic things that I have ever seen. All of the build up to this, it was sold out in there. The stars were out, all the celebrities are there. And we know how no one that cares about fight, the people that don't care about fighting, they all of a sudden care because McGregor's fighting. It sent us back in time a little bit to where it felt like, the ride, that roller coaster, the metro, whatever, it's rolling and it's like going through the stops. And it's like, with McGregor, it's like it's still on the tracks and it was still going. And it's like, man, we're still on this ride a little bit. Maybe we're kind of, in lollipop land a little bit, but maybe we can, a blast from the past. It gets back on track. And then we could, he goes out here and KOs Max. And it's like, what? No, man. Wow. And then, he's back on top of the sport. And it's like we're living back in 2016. But unfortunately, this is a brutal business. It's a brutal business. And, man, I just can't even think of and people that are like, they hate Conor or whatever, you just hate him and you can't stand him or whatever. Is this really the way that you would hope that, you would, if you hated Conor that much, you at least want to see a fight play out to where Holloway could melt him or something, right? To where Holloway puts the beats on him, McGregor gets tired and he's melting and Holloway's taunting and teeing off and puts him away. I don't know, man. This is absolutely crazy to me. I'm trying to give my thoughts as best as I can because I've never seen anything like that. In terms of who McGregor is, the time away, the injuries coming off of all throughout his career, all the stuff that's been going outside of fighting for him, comes back, the big comeback, and then this is how it all plays out. Absolutely deflating. Absolutely deflating. But the good news is for Max Holloway, he's fresh as a daisy. Took zero damage, just made a bunch of money, and he can probably fight whoever he wants right now. So, Crazy. On paper, gets his get back against Conor McGregor, but I mean, this wasn't even a fight, man. It wasn't even a fight. We were robbed of a main event. It felt like McGregor was back until the whole thing plays out. I guess indeed he is not back. It's going to be bad, McGregor. That's the whole reality of this whole thing, man. Absolutely deflating, and I feel like I'm hallucinating. It doesn't even feel real. I'm so disappointed, as we all are. Benoit Saint Denis versus Paddy Pimblett. We picked Paddy Pimblett to win this fight, and for a lot of what we saw, I just, listen, I'm actually blown away at BSD's approach. You know, he's working with Nicolas Sadu, I think I've been saying is one of the best coaches in the game, coaches Nasruddin Imavov, and I think it's been a big reason that Benoit's was on a nice win streak. I believe it was, a 4-fight win streak coming into this. Benoit is just, you can't shoot with your head out on the hip against Paddy Pimblett. I have no idea what he was thinking. I don't know if that was the game plan. I don't know if he deviated from the plan. I have no idea, because I had been saying that, listen, Nicolas Sadu has kind of taken this machine in Benoit and been like, look, we're just not going to go out there and brawl all the time, right? We're going to kind of channel that energy, come out with these strategic approaches, and we're going to be methodical and have kind of a more tactical game to us. Came out throwing the kicks, right? And we knew Benoit was going to do that. Kicks to the body, kicks to the head, one of his best weapons. But I've been saying for a while that BSD, he is slow, man. He looks sluggish out there, and his striking defense is not good. His wrestling is solid. His ground and pound is good, but he shoots with his head out on the hip. You can't do that against Paddy Pimblett. And I've been saying for a while, it was one of those things where at one point, Paddy was very overrated. To where it was like, is this guy an industry plant? And then you got to see like, oh, wait, this guy, he's actually pretty good. And then we saw how he fought against Gaethje, and then we saw what Gaethje did to Elia, and it's like, wait a minute, Paddy Pimblett's actually really good. And then for him to go out here, I didn't think he would make it look that easy. I thought he would beat Benoit by a decision or a submission. But for him to do it that easy, as quickly as he did in the first round, is unbelievably impressive. Because keep in mind, Benoit is a win over Mauricio Rufy. Starts Beneil Dariush with ease. Beat up Dan Hooker. And Paddy Pimblett, threatened with the guillotine. Benoit kind of felt it and then moved, and then boom, Pimblett set him up beautifully with a Darce. And I knew BSD was going to get submitted right there. As soon as Paddy locked in the Darce and I saw the arm come through, was grabbing the bicep, and he started to curl that arm back, I'm like, BSD's done. And I knew BSD probably wouldn't tap, especially to a blood choke, just the way he is, the way he's wired. He's an absolute savage. I'm like, he's probably not going to tap. And Paddy Pimblett goes out here, gets the easiest win of his entire career against Benoit. The second toughest fight of his career outside of Gaethje would be Saint Denis, I feel like we can all agree, right? And he got the easiest win of his entire career against a game opponent in Benoit. I was saying, man, like, I trust Paddy more than I do Benoit. And listen, I know Paddy keeps his chin in the air. His striking defense isn't that great, but on the feet, he's got, the string bean front kicks up the middle. He's got a solid kicking game, some Looney Tunes style of boxing, right? Kind of slaps with the shots, but I've been saying for a while, at one point, Paddy was overrated. He became criminally underrated, and the fact that he was the dog coming into this was surprising to me because I felt like stylistically, he's a better jiu-jitsu player by far than Benoit, by far. It was the fact that Benoit has the wrestling, but if you have solid wrestling, but you lack in the jiu-jitsu department and you're going in there against a guy that has decent takedown defense and has a high-level submission game, you're in trouble, especially if you leave your head out on the hip. Exactly what BSD do. Exactly what BSD did is exactly what you cannot do against someone like Paddy, and that's exactly what he did. So he walked himself right into a submission. I thought that Benoit's best game was to kind of play the striking game. See if he can land those big shots on Paddy, because if you try to grapple with him, like Paddy could even bump, sweep, put Benoit on his back, and we've seen when Moicano did it. I mean, BSD's like a turtle on his shell. Like, he's like squirming around like this. He can't get up. He's not good off of his back. And Paddy has solid ground and pound as well. So Benoit, big 55er. Paddy was able to match the physicality. This was the best performance of Paddy's career by far. Just how good is Justin Gaethje, but also Paddy Pimblett, a guy that became very underrated, goes out there and puts on the best performance of his career, and he's one of the biggest stars in the UFC, man. At that press conference, when he was like, nah, lad, you got big Conor McGregor here. He's the one that get the big pop. It was actually for Paddy, I thought. I thought Paddy had the biggest pop. So Paddy's a star, man. You saw for his walkout, people were going nuts. Paddy Pimblett's a star. He's an absolute star. We've seen a lot of his striking lately, but people forget, man, Paddy Pimblett is a very, very good grappler. Defensively, And if you could get into these entanglements, that's what Gaethje did a good job of, was not getting into these grappling entanglements with Paddy. Where Paddy struggles is getting the fight to the ground. Like, his wrestling isn't good. But his jiu-jitsu, very, very good. Styles make fights. Benoit would press the wrestling, giving Paddy exactly what he would need to do something like what he just did. Amazing performance by Paddy Pimblett. What's next for him? Whatever he wants. I could see them doing Paddy versus Elia, and I was saying that the winner of this fight probably fights Elia next in a big fight. Like Paddy versus Elia, it's a huge fight. A big bounce-back opportunity for Elia, right? Gaethje beat up Elia. You know, Gaethje beat up Pimblett, and now Pimblett comes back to fight Elia. It's a comeback chance for Elia. That'd be a huge fight, man. That'd be a huge fight. The banter, the trash talk between the two. You know, maybe they do Paddy versus Holloway, Paddy versus Oliveira. Like, there's so many options for Paddy, and that's what happens when you're a big star and you go out there and get a big win like he did at International Fight Week. Huge for Paddy Pimblett. And Benoit will be back, man. He's very, very good, but I've been saying before, he's good, but his skills at some point will get nullified by some of these guys at the top of the weight class that can deal with what he brings to the table, especially in the grappling department. Paddy Pimblett gets the job done. Very impressive. Cory Sandhagen, Mario Bautista. So we knew that this was going to be a close fight. I did pick Cory Sandhagen to get the job done, and I think that there was an argument for Cory to win the first round. But I did side with Mario Bautista getting this one done, 29-28. I thought that Mario won rounds 1 and 3. Cory won round 2 on a damaged knee, which is kind of crazy. That you could tell that at the end of the first round, Cory hurt his knee or his leg or something like that, couldn't move very well, and went out there and won the second round against Mario. And the way that I looked at this was I was actually more impressed with Cory Sandhagen than Mario Bautista. Mario started to slow down in round 2. Cory was putting on him with a compromised leg, and Mario Bautista had to resort to grappling and holding Cory in round 3 to win. I know he dropped him at one point, but I mean, Cory couldn't even move. When you take away a lighter fighter's movement, especially a guy that relies on a ton of angles and footwork like Cory, and you take that away, they're a sitting duck. So the fact that Cory made it the full 15 is mind-boggling to me. I thought he was going to get finished. So to me, it was a victory for Cory that he made it the distance. And yeah, Mario Bautista, we've known he's underrated for a while. He's very good. I expected this fight to be a lot like what it was outside of Cory getting injured. Or at least it looked like he got injured with the knee. I expected this to be razor close, and that it was. It was close, but I thought Mario did get the job done. I thought it was a close fight either way. Mario, to me, I thought it was a little bit underwhelming. You had a wounded guy in front of you, and you were kind of going life and death in a way with Sandhagen, and got it done on the scorecards. But I've been saying for a while, I like both of these guys. I'm a big fan of their work. They're both very well-rounded. They're both good on the feet, both good on the ground, good gas tanks, tons of experience. Mario gets his get back, right? First time they fought, it was 2019. Cory got the first round armbar. Mario comes out here and puts on a much better performance, obviously, than the first time. And Mario Bautista, he's a top 5 bantamweight. We've been saying it for a while. Stylistically, he matches up well with a lot of guys. Was able to sting Umar up. He's got a good ground game. What he did to Vinny Oliveira was very impressive. So, not trying to take anything away from Mario. I just expected when I'm like, oh, Cory's compromised. Mario should get a finish. He rocked him. Right? And I was like, he should take over the fight and just dominate it here. And I mean, he kind of did in round 3, but I don't know. I expected him to get him out of there or something, considering the circumstances that it looked like Cory was battling. But good fight all around. Sucks that, the injury or whatever happened at the end of the first round with Mario, which was caused by Mario, right? They got into a grappling entanglement. He was, grabbing for the leg, looking for maybe a knee bar or something like that. I don't know. Looked like he was going for a Suliev stretch. And then they were scrambling. I don't know. But it looked like something happened to Cory in that exchange. But good win for Mario Bautista, getting the get back over a big name and a top fighter in the weight class. Mario, always game, man. Great performance. Brandon Royval, Lone'er Kavanagh. This was absolutely the fight of the night. One of the best fights we've had this year. And listen, I was surprised by this. I picked Lone'er Kavanagh to win this fight. I'm not surprised that Brandon Royval won, but I thought Lonnie was going to win, right? You can never count out Brandon Royval. He's always game. But the reality is, in hindsight, I should have considered a little bit more on the side of Brandon Royval. And I know it's easy to say now because we see the result, but we got to see something in this fight that we saw in the Charles Johnson fight, which is the fact that not only do southpaws tend to kind of find ways to get to the target against Lonnie, but in a high-paced fight where you really set the tone quickly and you're putting them in this high, like we're throwing so many shots in this fight, you got to keep up with my output or otherwise you're probably going to lose. That's where Kavanagh is going to struggle. Look at the Charles Johnson fight. He was having a lot of success, started to slow down. Boom, Charles Johnson capitalized. Is that not what happened in this fight? I know Royval got out to an early lead, was just jabbing him up, sticking and moving. We got to round 2. Kavanagh landed a big shot, was able to drop him. Kind of, it felt like fumbled to finish a little bit, but Royval's always game, man. He's a dog. One of my favorite flyweights of all time is Brandon Royval. Always fun to watch. Always in a fun fight. The fight with Joshua Van, this fight, like Brandon Royval's game, man. And that was a different, and you could say, well, what about when he fought Brandon Moreno at Elevation, right, on a shorter notice, a 25-minute fight, and Lone'er Kavanagh looked impressive, and he did. He looked like a world beater, put on a clinic. But the reality is Moreno didn't really push a pace, nothing like what Brandon Royval did. Brandon Royval pushed a crazy pace, and that ultimately ended up fatiguing Kavanagh. You could see it. After Kavanagh did not get a finish in round 2, you could see the body language, the huffing and puffing, started to slow down, and Royval put his foot on the gas, took advantage of that, got after him in round 3, was able to get to the back, find a submission. Brandon Royval, a crafty son of a gun, and part of the big 3, man. Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval, Alessandro Pantoja, the big names that have been at the top, the OGs of the division. Brandon Royval still showing that he's got it. Just how good is Joshua Van and Manel Kape? Because I think Lone'er Kavanagh at some point could definitely be a champion. He's still very young. He'll bounce back. But he's a very tactical fighter. But what we're noticing is against these game fighters, man, especially when these guys can go southpaw or they are southpaw, they tend to give him problems as the fight starts to play out. He does very well in the first 2, and then once he gets to round 3, things start to fall apart. So definitely something to note moving forward. But I think Kavanagh is very skilled. This was a huge win for Brandon Royval, and I like the Asu Almabayev call out. I like that fight a lot. I think that Royval matches up very well against Almabayev, considering Royval's got a slick jiu-jitsu game, as we saw once again in this fight. Great win by Brandon Royval, great performance, and a great fight between these two. It was the best fight of the night. Bob King Green versus Terrance McKinney. We picked Bob Green to win this fight for exactly pretty much what happened. Now, I didn't expect Terrance McKinney to have as much success as he did in the first round, but Bob Green gets the buzzer beater KO. And I picked him by, I think, second round submission because I thought that it actually would go to the second round, and it almost did, to be fair. But Bob Green has underrated grappling. He was able to survive. It looked bad, right? I don't know. Something cut open Green, and I think McKinney got cut open as well. I don't know if it was the uppercut that McKinney threw or what happened, but Green was leaking, right? They were on the ground. He was squirming around, and I'm like, oh, this fight might get stopped. The referee's taking a close look, and then, good thing he didn't stop it because Bob kind of scrambles and slithers his way out and then gets back to the feet and just puts it on McKinney, man. And I said this before, Terrance McKinney, he will melt and he will fold. That's the reality. People love to make Terrance McKinney out to be something that he isn't. Oh, this guy's he'd be a top 5 guy if he had a gas tank. And he's got an elite skill set. No, he doesn't. Terrance McKinney to me is a guy that if he comes out and puts the foot on the gas and can get you out of there with no resistance, he'll win. But if you put up any bit of resistance, this dude folds and melts, and that's exactly what happened. And that's why I picked Bob to win this fight, because I knew that Bob is more of a dog than Terrance McKinney. And that's what happened in this fight. Bobby Green simply outdogged Terrance McKinney. And if you thought that Green was going to walk in there with them bandana shorts and lose, you're tripping, man. That's 4 fights in a row that Bobby Green has won at almost 40 years of age. And I'm glad. I think he got a bonus, and absolutely deserving so. 4 wins in a row, man. Lance Gibson, Daniel Zellhuber, Jeremy Stevens, Terrance McKinney, and 3 of them are by finish. And the Lance Gibson win aged really well because I think that was like technically a split decision. It wasn't. Bobby Green clearly won that fight. And look what Gibson did to Chase Hooper. So how about Bob Green, man? Getting it done over McKinney. McKinney's always fun, right? It's not like he's not fun. I'm not saying he's not fun, but I'm just saying this talk of, whoa, he's got all the skills to be an elite guy. No, he doesn't. He just overwhelms people and takes advantage of the fact that fighters like to get a feel for the fight. He's explosive early, burns all the gas right away, and then if he gets you out of there, great. If he doesn't, he melts, and that's the reality. So Bob Green, buzzer beater KO over Terrance McKinney. Happy for Bob Green, man. He's a guy that I've been watching for years. He's been in the game for a long time, still doing it at a very high level. And one of the things I said, you have to be a guy that can set stuff up in order to get Green out of there, like a Roofy, like a Jalen Turner. Those are the guys that can get to Bob Green. I figured he would be crafty enough to make it happen. Great performance by Green. Nikita Krylov versus Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whittaker. Listen, man, we called this one to a T. I said Robert Whittaker by round 3 knockout. And I expected the fight to go not exactly as it did in the first round, but what we saw in round 2 and round 3. I figured that Robert Whittaker was just going to be a step ahead of Nikita Krylov all night long. And by the way, does Nikita Krylov look like withered and old to you as well? Nikita Krylov looks old, man. He looks old, and he looked good in the first round, trying to impose his physicality, right? Trying to maybe take a page out of the book of RDR, right? DeRitter was having a lot of success utilizing his frame and physicality with the grappling against Whittaker, even though he didn't really take Whittaker down, but trying to bully him in the clinch. But the reality is Whittaker's got really good grappling, really good takedown defense, really good offensive grappling. And on the feet, I mean, Krylov has power. He's the established 205er, but there was no way outside of him clipping Whittaker on the way in that he was going to beat Whittaker on the feet. Whittaker looked sharp. He looked good. And I figured he was going to put on a masterclass. Fighting well behind the jab, eventually throwing the double jab, straight right hand behind it, set up the 1-2 high kick at one point. Like, Robert Whittaker was just a step ahead all night long, right? A dicey first round, right, to where I thought that Whittaker did take it because of the damage he started to land, especially towards the end of the round, landed some good shots where Krylov was, getting the grappling going, but wasn't really doing anything with it. But it was a competitive first round, and then you felt the tide start to shift. Nikita was taking some deep breaths. Bobby Knuckles was starting to put it on him and gets the stoppage, and it looked like he broke the jaw of Krylov. And shout out to Whittaker for not following up, right? And respect to both of these guys, man. Krylov's a good sport. Nothing on that, man. He's a dog. He's always going to show up and put on. But I just figured Robert Whittaker, he's a fan favorite, man. Everybody likes Bobby Knuckles. So for him to go out there and move up to 205 in the debut, look, Rogan kept talking about Robert Whittaker's pudgy physique, and I'm like, dog, he looks good. He's tagging him up. I know he's taking some deep breaths, but he's grappling hard against a bigger opponent. So do I think that Bob's going to be a champion at 205? Probably not. I think he's going to struggle against like the top guys in the weight class, right? Like an Ankalaev, a Roundtree, even like Yuri. Like I feel like that could be dicey for Whittaker. Alberg for sure. Like Alberg would knock out Whittaker, but you know what I mean? Like there's some matchups that I think Whittaker can win, but also some very scary ones for him at 205. And he's probably going to be in the rankings because I think Krylov was a back-end ranked guy, wasn't he? So that was a big win for Whittaker. And it shows skills, man, levels. Coming up from 185, we've seen a lot of these 185ers moving up to light heavyweight. Look how good Costa looked against Mirzakhanov, right? RDR's moving up. I think he's going to be fighting Roman Dolidze. So, the 185ers, they seem to have an edge moving up to 205. That was a great performance by Robert Whittaker. Vintage Bobby Knuckle masterclass. Goes out there, gets it done over Nikita Krylov. Super happy for Robert Whittaker, man. That was a great performance. Gable Steveson, Elisha, Ellison. I mean, this is kind of what we all expected was a first-round finish for Gable Steveson. But listen, here's the reality. A lot of people are hating on Gable Steveson, right? And I understand some things outside the cage like that. That's, I think, where a lot of it comes from. I get it. But at the end of the day, when we talk about the fighter, Gable Steveson, I know that Daniel Cormier and a lot of people are kind of propping him up to be like the greatest thing since sliced bread, and he's the next big thing. I'm not going that far. I'm just not doing it. And that's never been my expectation for Gable Steveson. So maybe that's why I feel what I'm about to say. I don't think people realize how good Gable Steveson is for this being only his fourth professional fight. This was only his fourth pro fight. He had 3 professional fights coming into this. Was fighting on a massive card. His first fight in the UFC, not in the damn Apex, not on the Contender Series where there's nobody there, in a massive spot. The second fight, before you get to the main card, the second to last fight before you get to the main card, and he goes out here against a guy that, by the way, Ellison put up more fight than most of the opposition that Bo Nickel has fought inside the UFC on his early run. Like Elisha Ellison showed up to actually try to win and do something. And it's heavyweight as well. Like Elisha Ellison, was he the sacrificial lamb being led to the slaughter here for Gable to get basically a free win and a showcase opportunity? Absolutely. But Ellison tried. He showed up and was throwing some big shots, and it is heavyweight. And by the way, Gable Steveson is improving at a rapid rate, man. I'm not saying he's going to be the next world champ. It's definitely possible. But my expectations for Gable have not been, this is the next big dude. That's not what I've thought. I'm like, we got a heavyweight prospect, a guy that's won a gold medal, multiple-time All-American at Minnesota. He's got all the wrestling credentials in the world. We get that. But I'm not sitting there going, this is the next Daniel Cormier. I've never felt that way. Let's see how it plays out. I felt the same way with Bo. It's like people are setting these expectations, and I feel like the UFC is to blame for a lot of that. They kind of put the pressure and, create these narratives in a way to where I'm not doing that. I'm not putting the cart before the horse. I'm like, let's see how this plays out. He had 3 professional fights. This is his 4th big spotlight against a guy that does have knockout power, can move, is not necessarily a blob at heavyweight, has shown that he does have some power. And he landed some good shots. But the reality is, look how good Gable didn't even wrestle in this fight. I know people are like, well, wait a minute. Ellison was trying to throw up a guillotine. It was a half-ass guillotine. They were standing on the feet. Gable Steveson didn't even have to wrestle. He did, and I believe if he wanted to take Ellison down, he could have. He was looking for a highlight KO on the feet. And you can tell he's been working with Jones, right? Cormier pointed that out. The front kicks to the body, switching stances, the little oblique shots. Gable was eating some shots now. Striking defense is suspect. I feel like a lot of that was he had no regard for Ellison's skills, which is dangerous, even though he should beat Ellison. It's heavyweight. Anything can happen. But Gable Stevenson's a great athlete. He's young. He's going to improve at a rapid rate. We're already seeing that. His striking looks better from fight to fight. He's explosive. Obviously, he's got the power. He's got good output. Looked like he was taking some deep breaths through the low blow. He had a little bit of a break in the action. But he is going to be a problem. He is going to be a problem. Now, if you throw him in there against like a guy like Gon or some of these top dudes, are you going to beat those guys now? No, I don't think so whatsoever. I think Josh Hokett would beat him. I think Josh Hokett would be a disaster for Gable Steveson. But it's right now. This is only his 4th fight. The UFC needs to slowly build him. Stop shoving him down the fan base's throat. Slowly build this up. Let it happen naturally. Learn from the Bo Nickal mistake, man. You're going to make people not like this dude when it comes to the fight game based off of the way that the UFC is kind of choosing to push him and create all these narratives and this and that. The dude's skilled. I definitely see the potential. He's got talent. He's getting better from fight to fight. I think he looks good for a dude that this was only his 4th professional fight and is in the UFC in a big spot. And I expected a little bit of adversity for Gable in this fight because it's his first fight in the UFC, and Ellison actually can strike a little bit. So good performance by Gable Steveson. I find it more impressive than what a lot of other people do because I think Ellison's better than what people want to give him credit for. So, but Gable got a long way to go, in my opinion, before he could beat some of the top guys in the weight class. And working with John Jones is going to help because he's getting better. Cody Garbrandt, Adrian Yanez. I mean, not much to say here. We all knew this was coming. I would like to see Cody Garbrandt retire. It's getting tough and it's getting harder and harder to watch this, man. As a big Garbrandt fan, I was a fan of this guy, even before he was fighting in the UFC, right? He was fighting on the local scene in Pittsburgh, in MMA, and coming to the UFC and having one of the greatest performances we've ever seen against Dominic Cruz to win the title, and losing to TJ. It just feels like that took something out of Garbrandt, man. He's still fast, was blitzing in the range, came out aggressive, so hats off there. He came out like a bat out of hell trying to catch Yanez early, but the reality is Cody wasn't winning this fight. Yanez is just too skilled, too poised, and Yanez is a guy that I've believed in since the jump, man. A lot of people were off the train of Yanez because he lost to Font and, suffered some, losses here and there, but Yanez is so skilled. His boxing is so smooth. He looked really good against Ricky Simón. I picked him to win that fight. I thought he won that fight. And then he goes out here and gets the KO over Garbrandt. I thought it would happen a little later into the fight, but gets it done early. He's just way better than Cody Garbrandt at this point in their careers, and it's getting hard to watch Garbrandt go out there, and he's not beating anyone that's relatively good, right? He could beat the older guys that can't really move as well. He could find a way to catch them, KO them, whatever, hit the running man a few times, win a decision, but I feel like Garbrandt, he's washed. He should retire. Adrian Yanez was a bad matchup for him. We all saw this coming. Luke Riley, Kai Kamaka. I thought Luke Riley would win, but not like this. Luke Riley's legit, man. I know people are going to try to hate on the guy and this and that, but to go from fighting Michael Aswell and what was still a good performance, but a little bit underwhelming, to go out there and starch Kai Kamaka, a guy that's got solid striking, that's known for being durable, and this was beautiful performance, man. Kai Kamaka landing some good calf kicks early. Commentary kept talking about that, but they weren't talking about how Luke Riley was setting him up beautifully. Jabbing, straight right hand, throwing the left hook to get Kamaka to raise his guard and be worried about the left hook because Riley's got a really tight left hook, and then boom, the right hand down the middle hurt him. People were talking about a bad stoppage. I didn't think it was a bad stoppage at all, other than the fact that it could have gotten a highlight reel knockout for Riley, but Kamaka was not going to recover from that. He was out. I thought he was out of it. It was only going to be bad moving forward if the fight continued at that point. So Luke Riley could have gotten a highlight, put out KO, but at the end of the day, it was a great performance, set him up beautifully. Luke Riley has excellent striking, man. Got to do a little bit better job of dealing with the leg kicks, but I feel like a lot of that was he had no respect for the game of Kai Kamaka, honestly. He went right after him, put it on him, outsmarted him on the feet, set him up beautifully, put him away. Great performance by Luke Riley. The dude's legit, man. He's a baller. Tracy Cortez, Bang Bang Wong, Wang Kong. I mean, I know that Wang Kong called out Valentina Shevchenko, and I guess that there's not really a whole lot left that you can really do for Valentina, but Valentina absolutely destroys Kong Wang in MMA. Like, absolutely destroys her. Like, she would take her down and hold her down, beat her up on the ground, possibly even submit her, and Valentina could outstrike her on the feet. I know that, look, it was a good performance by Kong. I expected her to win this fight because Tracy Cortez, not dangerous on the feet. I figured that the physicality and the size of Kong would be a problem for Tracy, and considering, Kong's working over a Team Alpha Male with Song and Uriah Faber, Would you add physicality with good takedown defense? Like, it's going to be a problem, right? She holds her hands low. Her striking defense is not good, but she's got power. You know, the leg kicks were a problem, battering the lead like a Tracy, firing the jab, landing some good power shots, right? The knee to a grounded opponent. I was like, it's an illegal knee to a grounded opponent. Shut up, Joe, you little fool. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I saw this coming, man. Like, Tracy Cortez's path to victory was to take her down, and I thought she would do it early and didn't. She was struggling with the range, already ate too many leg kicks to where the lead leg was compromised. Kong just beat her up. That's the reality. She's the better fighter, and that's why she won this fight. Sure, give her to Valentina. There's not much else to do, but Valentina destroys her in MMA, in my opinion. Good performance, though, by Bang Bang Wong. Damian Panas versus Cesar Almeida. I picked Damian to win this fight, but I had hesitation because Cesar Almeida's got the kickboxing experience. And this fight, actually, I thought that this was one of the most impressive wins that we've seen from a young fighter this year. This was looking bad for Damian. It really was. It was looking bad for Damian because he was kind of stuck in the mud, slow and plotty, having a hard time finding his range. Almeida's going tit for tat, landing leg kicks, kicks to the body, picking at him. And I'm like, this is a disaster. This is not what you want to do against Almeida. Almeida's throwing right hands to the body. Looks like he's finding his timing. If you play that game with Almeida, you're going to lose. He's too high level on the feet to do that. But then, as we were reminded, Damian Penis, hold on a minute. Whoa. They put Pinas and then Wang on the same card and did them back-to-back on International Fight Week. You can't tell me the UFC didn't do that on purpose, man. But listen, Damian Panas, what I love about this guy, he throws perfect technical straight shots down the middle. That is why technique prevails most of the time, man. A perfect jab down the middle. The right hand is straight down the pipe, and that's why you got to throw a crispy missile straight right against a guy like Cesar Almeida, who's got good kickboxing. But what did I say coming into this fight? He doesn't move his head. He's susceptible to straight shots down the middle. Felt like only a matter of time until Damian would find the target. The right hand landed, put Almeida out bad. Damian Panas, we're talking about Atiba Gautier, how great he is. This win by Panas in the middleweight division, by the way, is more impressive than anything that Atiba has done against a level of opposition. Like, Almeida's no joke, man. And for Panas to go in there, battle a little adversity, in there against a high-level striker who's kind of outpointing you, outscoring you, going tit for tat, lands even a little bit of a takedown, you get back to the feet, you're battling some adversity, and to not be phased and move forward, land some leg kicks of your own, and then land the big right hand and put him away. Great performance by Damian Panas, or Penis, however you say it, man. To get it done over Almeida. Great win. Farid Basharat versus John Garza. I'm more okay. The commentary was kind of biased towards Garza, so I was kind of like, I'm more impressed with Garza, but I'm impressed with Basharat because, first of all, Ethan Ewing would have beat the brakes off of Basharat, and I think he would have TKO'd him via body shot late in the fight. I was going to pick Ethan Ewing to win this fight, so hopefully the UFC rebooks that. That will be my pick, Ethan Ewing. I was going to pick him to win this fight, but before I recorded my breakdowns, that fight fell off. I picked Basharat to win, considering that Garza, he's young, talented, good boxing, which we saw. His boxing looked really, really good. But I figured that Basharat was preparing for Ewing, so he was used to, dealing with a good, doing a lot of boxing base to deal with a good boxer, right? And we just saw the experience of Basharat, right? 6-0 in the UFC. He's been in there against some good opposition. Garza's a dog. I think he's going to be good in the UFC. He showed a lot of promise. Hopefully the UFC, give him a full camp. Let him prepare, give him a contract. Garza's got the goods, man. The pressure, the boxing looked really, really good. His hands were really good. He took it to Basharat. And I think Basharat was saying he was injured or whatever, but Basharat looked solid. Sticking with the jab, mixing in the kicks, mixing in some takedowns. The takedown defense looked much improved from Garza from what I was able to find on him prior to the UFC. So the kid's got a lot of promise. I think he's got a brighter future, honestly, long-term, than Basharat does in the UFC. Basharat saying to have a new deal. I mean, he should get it. He's undefeated, but not the most exciting guy in the world. I thought Garza was taking it to him, and I think if you run a rematch back with Garza on a full camp, I'm not so sure he doesn't beat Farid Basharat. That was a great performance, man. Ethan Ewing would have beat the brakes off of Basharat, I think. Ryan Gandro, Zachary Reese. Right as Joe Rogan said, Reese looks good. I like what he's doing or whatever. Bang, the left hook of Gandra catches him and puts him away. We picked Gandra by first round KO, but I was saying that, look, man, if Gandra doesn't get the early KO, Zachary Reese can kind of craft his way to finding a way to get it done because he's got really good kicks, Luke Rockhold-esque. We saw Reese where he actually, to be fair to Rogan, I mean, Zachary Reese did look kind of good early. He was measured. He was throwing some good shots. The problem with Ryan Gandra is he is so explosive, and if this guy even lands a pinky on you, you're getting knocked out. So he's got devastating power in this weight class. Zachary Reese, a guy that I've been saying I just feel like is, at one point it felt like he was decent, and then for a while it's like this guy just isn't that good. Goes out there, Gandra runs him over. That's kind of what we all expected. Great performance by Gandra. Last but not least, Alessandro Costa versus Cody Durden. This was a good performance by Costa because Cody Durden's like a crafty, grizzled, experienced fighter in this division. Decent boxing, decent output, good low kicks, had a good first round, right? He was trying to mix in some of the wrestling, but the reality of mini Diego Lopez, Alessandro Costa, is his style is a lot like Grasso and Diego, right? Trains with them. He's got the high guard, the boxing, the head movement was decent, was rolling, looking for the big shot a little bit too much. I'd like to see him fight behind the jab a little bit more, was, spamming a bunch of leg kicks. They were all missing. Durden was just a step ahead with the speed. But the reality is, if you go, the thing with Diego Lopez, Grasso, and Costa fights just like them. He has the power and the devastating, boxing on the feet, and then he also has a dangerous submission game. So you're in danger at all times with Costa. You're worried about the body shots, right? The way that he's been able to, the way he finished Schnell, the way he finished Stuart Nickel. You're worried about the power on the feet, and then, Durden, they end up on the ground. I think Durden slipped and fell, or however they got onto the ground, and then Costa transitions, works his way to the back, finds a submission. It was beautiful work by Alessandro Costa, one of the most underrated guys I feel in the UFC. I've been on the Costa train. He's looked really good lately. This was a big win for him. And again, stepping in on short notice once again. And it kind of sucks for Durden because I probably would have picked Durden to beat Ode Osborne. So Durden came off a great short notice step-in win over Jafel Filio. Costa steps in short notice here. This was a much harder fight for Durden. I thought Costa would get this one done. He is a very, very game opponent in the flyweight division. Very well-rounded and dangerous. So that is my recap for UFC 329. I may do a separate video on McGregor versus Holloway to talk a little bit more about that, give some more thoughts maybe. I don't know. I'm just deflated, man. Absolutely deflated. I can't believe it. All of the build-up and hype and all the thoughts we had coming into this, like can Conor actually go out here and win in the big 2026 after being away for so long, and a rematch against Max, and Max coming up to 170. Like there's some advantages it feels in the favor of Conor, and then for it all to play out like this, absolutely deflating, man.